Everyone's down on Auburn right now, but what if Peyton Thorne just has a career season? 2021 seems like forever ago, but he was at Michigan State then. Remember, he did have 3,200 yards, 27 touchdowns, 10 picks, and it was a season for the ages. They will remember it for a long time in East Lansing, and then everything went sideways for everyone, pretty much. And last year, Peyton Thorne's at Auburn. He's all the way down to a little over 1,700 passing yards, 16 touchdowns, 10 picks. So I will grant you, it's a stretch to be asking if he could have a career year. They did land Cam Coleman. He's a true freshman, but he's absolutely going to have the ball force-fed to him. They've got Keandre Lambert-Smith. They got him from Penn State. Rivaldo Fairweather, the tight ends down there. This is not a horrible stable of pass catchers, far from it. If this happens, okay, if Peyton Thorne somehow puts it all together and Hugh Freeze finds a way to pull that out of him, what I think about is not Georgia and Alabama. Auburn probably still a healthy underdog in those games, even if they get pretty good quarterback play. What I'm thinking about is the Oklahoma game in Week 5. And Auburn starts 5 straight games at home, by the way. I'm thinking about the Oklahoma game. I'm thinking about a few weeks later, they go to Missouri. And then at Kentucky the week after that. These are games that would either be coin flip or Auburn lose. And I'm also thinking about A&M, second to last week of the season. If we're getting big-time quarterback play from Thorne, those go from toss-up, lean opponent to lean Auburn, maybe even solidly lean Auburn. And that's the difference in you going 5-7 or 6-6, and you going 8-4, 9-3, maybe sniffing 10-2 if maybe Georgia or Alabama's not as good as we think they're going to be. So, yeah, it would be a good sign. It would also make Hugh Freeze look like a genius because they didn't even go get a quarterback out of the portal. I don't think they're counting on Peyton Thorne delivering a career year. But if he does, you reserve the right to stand at the podium and go full I told you so mode to everyone in December. Next up, in the interest of fairness, let's go out to L.A. What if D'Anton Lynn does turn around USC's offense overnight? There is precedent for this, as my esteemed Trojan friends would have you not believe, they would have you know. UCLA in 2022, they were 87th in the country in yards allowed. They were 90th in points per game allowed. Enter D'Anton Lynn. Overnight, the very next year, they're up to 10th in yards allowed. They're up to 14th in points per game allowed. So you just quickly run the arithmetic in your head, bring him over to USC. Doesn't even have to move if he doesn't want to. He can live in the same house. He comes over here. We were 121st last year in points per game defensively. We were 119th in yards per game allowed defensively. So maybe he doesn't make us top 10. Maybe he doesn't make us top 20. What if he just jumps us up into the top 50? That would be sizable. Mixed opinions as to whether he's going to do that. I don't think he will. But I could just flat out be wrong on that. Some of my USC folks could be right on that. So if he does that, well, what is USC? Well, USC is a Big Ten championship contender if he does that. Because it does two things. Number one, it creates a more balanced approach. Number two, it means you don't have to score 40 a game to win. And number three, because of number two, Miller Moss is not a quarterback who gets the weight of the world put on his shoulders, kind of like Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams knew, man, I can play at no less than a Heisman level if we're going to win today. That's the mentality that he had to have. I don't want Miller Moss having to think like that. And so if you get this kind of defensive performance, he won't have to. And lastly, what if Miami has another mediocre season? Well, the total's 9.5. Okay, so I would define mediocre for Miami as 8 wins or less. There's this weird territory that this could fall in, though, because they went 5-7 Mario's first year. They went 7-5 last year, 7-6 if you include the bowl game. If they went 8-4 this year, technically it would be improvement, but it really wouldn't be acceptable because this Miami team's way different than the last two. When you go and get Cam Ward at quarterback, and when you do what they did in the portal afterwards, and when you bake in all of these recruiting classes, well, the 2 recruiting classes you've had so far, it's supposed to bring you a lot more than 8 wins. So if they were 8 wins, or certainly if they were below 8 wins, well, you'd have a very predictable conversation. About Mario, you'd have a predictable conversation about his staff, their way of doing things. This is, of course, assuming there's not massive amounts of injury, because that could explain away anything. But if they just kind of are what we expect them to be roster-wise, and it's good for nothing more than 7 or 8 wins, then that's a problem. That's a problem by anybody's metric, including theirs. I think that the conversation would be really rough around them. It wouldn't be hot seat rough. I will tell you that right now. It wouldn't be hot seat rough. Well, people may call for hot seat. That wouldn't be what happened there. There would just be a lot of soul searching that would have to happen. A whole lot. Think about the way you felt after the Georgia Tech game last year. That's how it would feel at the end of the season instead of just the end of one given game.